back to POV Italian Cooking, where you see cooking from my point of view. You know, growing up as a kid, you used to go to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and maybe you did, on Sundays. When I went to Grandma and Grandpa's house, who lived next door to us, on Sundays, Grandpa would either make butter beans or Grandma would make vegetable soup. Well, when you grow up in an Italian family, Nonna makes Sunday sauce. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make a Sunday sauce. For our meat in our Sunday sauce, a lot of folks use ribs, meatballs, sausage. We're going to do meatballs and some sausage links. So let's get started. We're going to make our meatballs first. So let's take a look at our ingredients. We're going to use a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. We're going to use 1 shallot finely minced. We're going to use 1 egg slightly beaten, 1 cup of seasoned breadcrumbs. Of course, we're always going to use a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of our pan. We're going to deglaze with some Gabbiano. We are going to use a tablespoon or so of chopped flat Italian parsley. And then kind of the stars of the meatball dish, 1 pound of ground pork and 1 pound of lean ground beef. You can replace the ground beef with either ground lamb or ground veal. I'm just going to use ground beef in this one. So let's kind of get things moved around here and we will get started. I've got all our ingredients ready to make our meatballs. So what we're going to do, get a big bowl. Put your meat down in your bowl. Next we are going to add 1 cup of breadcrumbs. This is one of our binding agents. We have, about a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. We'll say that's about a 1/4 cup. One thing I forgot to put in the first segment there was garlic. You gotta have garlic in your meatball. So I got about 3 cloves of garlic here, 3 or 4 again, depends on your palate. This is our finely minced shallot. We're gonna use about 3/4 of a small shallot, and then our flat leaf parsley. It's probably about a tablespoon or so of flat leaf parsley there. I've got all our ingredients ready to make our meatballs. So what we're going to do, get a big bowl. Put your meat down in your bowl. Next we are going to add 1 cup of breadcrumbs. This is one of our binding agents. We have, about a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. One thing I forgot to put in the first segment there was garlic. You gotta have garlic in your meatball. So I got about 3 cloves of garlic here, 3 or 4 again, depends on your palate. This is our finely minced shallot. We're gonna use about 3/4 of a small shallot, and then our flat leaf parsley. It's probably about a tablespoon or so of flat leaf parsley there. Our last ingredient is 1 egg slightly beaten. Just put that in the bowl. So what we want to do is get everything kind of incorporated now. I'm just going to start with this wooden spoon, breaking everything up. What we're going to do is just really squeeze this together. We want to make sure we get that beef and pork completely incorporated together. Make sure that we get all of our breadcrumbs in there, all of that cheese. We got some egg and garlic on the sides here that we want to make sure we get all mixed together. And you can already see it's going to hold together really well. You can just tell from how it's holding together in the bowl. It's really good and sticky. Now it's time to make our meatballs. What you want to do is you want about a 1-inch meatball, give or take. Whatever size you make them all that size. That way they cook evenly. We're going to go with that. Might be a little bigger than 1 inch, but you know what? I'm going to put these in my Sunday sauce and they're going to simmer and it's going to be delicious. I moved over to our stove. I have some olive oil in the pan getting hot. We're going to brown our meatballs. The secret to browning your meatballs so they do not fall apart is don't mess with them. They need to be spaced out so they can cook quick. If not, if you get them all bunched together, the moisture doesn't come off of them. They just don't cook right. So what we're going to do is we're going to let these brown. We're going to get good and brown on one side. Turn my heat down a little bit. Then we're going to flip them. We're just going to keep turning them until they're brown on all sides. They're not going to get all the way done clear through probably because they're going to simmer in our sauce for quite a while. Okay, our meatballs are ready to turn. You can see here how they're nice and brown. I have a very unlevel burner on my stove. Ooh, getting a little too brown. so I keep spinning my pan, and I've got to fix this burner. I have to make it a priority. Okay, we have one batch of our meatballs done. Our last batch of meatballs is in. Back here in our pot that we're going to use to make our Sunday sauce, I'm browning up some Italian sausage links, and I'm doing it in the pan where I'm making the sauce because we want to capture this fat coming off both of these meats because it is part of the flavoring of our sauce. Okay, our meatballs are done, so now it's time to start making our Sunday sauce. What we're going to use is 2 cans of peeled tomatoes. We are going to puree those and then just pour them all in. We're going to remove the basil from these before we puree, and we don't want to puree that basil. We're going to use, this is about a half of a red onion. We'll probably use most of this. We're going to use 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. We're going to chop up some basil that we'll add at the end. Of course, salt, pepper, and red pepper flakes, kind of our standard. And then we're going to use our Chianti to deglaze our pan. You'll see all this when it kind of comes together here in just a second. So what I'm going to do is break away. I'm going to go ahead and puree my tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and chop up my garlic. I'm going to go ahead and get my basil ready. Okay, this is the pan we're going to make our Sunday sauce in. Now, I browned my Italian sausage in here, and we want all that flavor in here. You'll see that there's some grease and whatnot in there. Well, that is part of the flavoring for your Sunday sauce. So there's 1 can in. I'm going to go ahead and get my other can pureed and get that done as well. Okay, I have the pan that I made my meatballs in. What I'm going to do with this pan is I'm going to get it hot again. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil, my Bellucci olive oil. And I'm going to put my onions in here and my garlic. That's probably about enough onion. I don't want it to be too oniony. And then garlic goes in. What we're going to do is I'm going to cook these for, we'll say 5 to 7 minutes. Our onions are nearly done. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is add some red pepper flake. I don't like a super spicy sauce, so I kind of go a little light on the red pepper flake. But what the red pepper flake does do is it rounds out the flavor. Our onions are really coming together. They're translucent. They're right where we want them. So what we're going to do is we are going to add, a cup or so of our Chianti. What we're going to do is we're going to take our wooden spoon and we're just going to kind of stir, lightly scraping the bottom. So as soon as the alcohol boils off, we're going to pour this into our sauce. Okay, it's been a couple minutes. I can no longer smell the alcohol. So what we're going to do is we are going to pour this into our sauce over here. Make sure we get all of the onions. We get all of the little bits of the meatballs. That's pretty good right there. So we're going to stir this together real quick. So now what we are going to do, I've got everything kind of stirred together there. We're going to season. So we're going to add our salt. We're going to add our pepper. Now we're going to add our meats back in. So I'm going to go ahead and put my sausage links in. Then we're going to put our meatballs back in here. We want to make sure we get our meatballs submerged in this wonderful sauce. Now while I was cooking, one of my meatballs broke up. Don't get mad and throw that in the trash. Save it. Put it in your sauce. This Sunday sauce can simmer all day. It's got to simmer at least 2 hours. But you can just leave it on the stove all day. You can make some pasta and put this over pasta. Right now, I'm having a love affair with polenta. So I'm going to make some real polenta. And the last episode I recorded, I made real polenta. And ever since I made it, I found out how easy it is to make, and I'll never make the instant stuff again. So I got our meats in there. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to cover this, and we're going to let this simmer for, I'm going to say about 2.5 hours. It's been probably 45 minutes or so. I've got the dishes in. You might be able to hear the dishwasher humming behind me. Just checking on our sauce. I ended up taking the lid off because I want this to thicken. You can see it's not very thick. You can see it's kind of watery. What I'm going to do is add some tomato paste to this right now, so that way the tomato paste will have time to kind of get incorporated, and all the flavors will meld through, because we want this to be a good thick sauce. Our sauce has about a half an hour left. You can see I've got a really good simmer going. It's thickened up since I added the tomato paste. Well, now we are going to add our basil. I'm going to go ahead and stir, and again, this has about a half hour left. So our Sunday sauce is ready. It's been simmering for 2.5 hours. Okay, I've plated up our meatballs with our Sunday sauce. Now, I put this over a bed of creamy polenta. You could do this over pasta as well. That's what most folks do, but I'm loving polenta right now. So, as you can see, looks delicious. Get a little bit of the polenta in here. Let's see how this is.
It's good.
That sauce is incredible. These meatballs. Oh my gosh, the meatballs really absorb some of that tomato flavor. Got a hint of garlic, and of course the parsley's coming through. The basil in the sauce. Real simple sauce to make, and it's sauce, not gravy. It's sauce in this house. Just incredible. You guys are gonna love this. So make it, let it simmer, give it time. It's got to simmer for 2.5 hours. But at any rate, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Most importantly, click that subscribe button on YouTube. We're on Snapchat now as well with some behind the scenes stuff. But really, thank you so much for watching, and ciao.